And now, oh, the heck with it. This is After Hours of Jewish Community Radio, off air and telling you what's happening. Elisheva, what's going on today?
Oh, we've got a lot, Fred.
Yeah, and it's, by the way, people should know, it's Sunday afternoon, December 5th. The almost the last day of Chanukah. Tonight is 8 lights. And in Israel, the 8th day has already started.
So tonight we'll be doing the fully loaded menorah.
Yep. And we are going to then be putting everything away probably tonight, tomorrow morning at the latest. We're done. Oh, by the way, we're done with Hanukkah. Please, please, please. No holiday party stuff. Go back to say Christmas. We're done. We are really done. We put it all away.
Let's just go back to wishing people have a nice day.
Yeah, have a nice day. You want to say Merry Christmas, say Merry Christmas. Doesn't bother us. We don't find it offensive. Of course, there's always one person who does. But you know something? The vast majority of us do not find it offensive whatsoever. Enjoy your holiday. Just have fun. But hey, on the topic, I do have an update on the Hanukkah food. In the last episode, I forget if it was the After Hours or the regular show, I mentioned who had... Yeah, no, it must have been After Hours, because I mentioned the names. Who had the best donuts and best latkes. And I gave both, I think, to Unger's. Because Unger's had a better cream in the middle. And the latkes are really good, but the stuff at Grove was good, but it wasn't as varied. Well, today I was there again. Yes, definitely. Unger's, hands down, commercially restaurant, wins best latkes. No question. But the donuts this year, I have a couple of donuts here from the Grove I have not eaten yet. And they're quite different. They have different creams in the middle that you would normally not expect. So since Grove has more creams in the middle, I have to change my best donuts to Grove. Because they're definitely more varied than Unger's is. So
Well, I actually have a weigh-in, but it's not even a local to Cleveland area.
you know what, I'm gonna eat a donut while we're talking. How's that sound?
Okay, go for it. So I'll start telling you about my experience. So
Okay.
I keep a strict gluten-free diet, and it's very, very difficult to get that perfect combination of gluten-free and kosher in Cleveland, Ohio. Basically, my kitchen and a few other people can accommodate. So, sometime last week, I saw a posting on Facebook. There's a Facebook group that's a really, really fun group to belong to.
Mm-hmm.
And this all gluten free, all kosher bakery in New York that actually does nationwide shipping was advertising that they had donuts for Hanukkah. So I decided to go on and order. And yes, if you are doing nationwide shipping out of New York, it becomes not cheap.
Oh yeah.
so, so in order to justify, and I noticed it was the same amount of shipping regardless of if I just bought a couple donuts or if I bought a few other things. So what caught my eye was donuts that are gluten-free, certified kosher, that are filled with Nutella.
Oh cool.
And actually, they finally arrived. I ordered them Tuesday. They were supposed to arrive on Saturday. They ended up arriving today, Sunday. So, of course, my husband and I opened the package, and we've eaten the 2 Nutella donuts.
Cool. Who delivers on Sunday?
This was actually Federal Express.
Wow. Okay. Cool.
And I think it was because they were supposed to come in on Saturday, but to make up for it, we got them today.
Okay.
So I got to experience that. I wasn't too pleased with the filling to donut ratio.
Mm-hmm. Meaning not enough filling.
And yeah. And then the other thing is I could tell where like it was 2 pieces of dough pinched together
Like a
to
sandwich.
make the pocket in order to fill. So it was basically like a glorified sandwich. I'm assuming what they did was they probably filled the donut and then fried it, as
Huh?
opposed to poking the hole.
That's weird.
Or they just had like or they fried the 2 pieces together because you could tell where like the pinching didn't quite work,
Uh huh.
and it was I felt like I was eating a Nutella sandwich. But I'm not going to complain. I like Nutella. So that was that. actually, my daughter's request for the last night of Hanukkah is she wants me to make pizza latkes tonight.
Really?
Yes.
How do you make a pizza latke?
Well, according to her, I'm supposed to make latkes like I normally do, and then we're gonna put pizza toppings on it and bake it in the oven.
Okay.
So basically, the latke will be the base.
Interesting. Well, for
So
what's worth,
that's. Mm-hmm.
today I had for lunch. I went really Jewish off the menu, and I had sushi and latkes. Yeah,
Okay.
sushi and latkes. Interesting combination. It was good.
Well, I could see eating them in the same meal. I probably wouldn't eat them on top of each other.
Not the
Uh,
same meal.
so so anyway, at the beginning of Hanukkah, I had a very interesting post on Facebook where the first night of Hanukkah, I made. Do you remember, Fred?
Hmm.
Do you remember what I made? Because I cook a lot and I post what I cook a lot on Facebook. Do you remember what I said I made for the first night of Hanukkah?
Latkes? No.
No,
Sufganiyot.
no.
No.
I made
Okay.
fish and chips.
Oh yeah. I
I made
forgot.
I no, it's okay. I made fish and chips. I got a lot of interesting comments, not directly on my Facebook page about it, but just from other people. So I can justify the use of fish and chips for Hanukkah, aside from the fact that the obvious, oh, it's fried. So not a lot of people realize this, but fish and chips, that famous British food, was actually created by a British Jew.
Yeah. Why?
And
Do tell.
why was it created?
Mm-hmm. Tell a story.
Okay, well, this is actually I'm reading this off the internet. So it started off actually with Western Sephardic Jews who moved to England in the 17th century. They had a dish called pescado frito, which is fried fish coated in flour. And basically that it is what it is. It's a common fish dish. And so when I'm saying Western Sephardic Jews, we're talking Portugal, Spain, and so over time, of course, it expanded to become like a beer batter, things like that. Potato didn't actually come to England until the 16th century. As we know, it's indigenous to the Americas. And there's a whole bit of debate about when fries were invented, but in England, as everybody knows, what we call French fries, they call chips.
Mm-hmm.
What we call chips, they call crisps.
Yeah.
Say that 3 times fast.
No.
So it was about the 1860s in England. There was the first fish and chip shop was opened in London by Joseph Malin, who sold fish fried in the Jewish fashion.
Okay.
So we're talking the 1860s. And so I'm assuming that meant no animal fat. It just was fish dipped in batter and fried with some potatoes kind of lurking around in the fried oil. So it's a very basic, common Jewish dish that people don't realize is a Jewish dish. So the British people and the Jews can claim it. And actually, I was going to tell you, speaking of British Jews, I ended up binge watching a TV show last night. That's why I'm a little tired. I couldn't sleep. I saw snippets of the show years ago on Facebook. And in case you don't realize, yes, I'm a bit fascinated with British culture and British humor. They had this TV show that they would tease on Facebook all the time called Friday Night Dinner.
Okay.
And so I have a question, Fred. What do you think the show's about?
Let me guess. Fish and chips.
No.
Bangers and mash.
No,
Food.
actually, okay.
Food.
It is a sitcom that was done in on Britain's Channel 4 from like 2011 until 2020. They had about 6 seasons. They call them series over there, but they were about 6 episodes apiece.
Mm-hmm.
It is the story of a British Jewish family that is relatively secularized, but it's the mishaps that happen every Friday night when they're having their family dinner. And it's not like openly obvious until like you kind of see these random things, like you see Shabbat candles in the background, you see the bread they're eating is challah, you see a mezuzah on the door, And just the fact that in England, for a lot of people, the big meal happens to be Sunday lunch or Sunday dinner, the Sunday roast. And then you're realizing, wait a minute, why are they meeting on Friday? And then you realize, they're Jewish. So I ended up watching a lot of episodes of that show last night, and it was a funny show. So if you can catch it, it's streaming on Amazon Prime,
Oh, cool. Maybe I'll
and
check it
like
out.
the first four seasons, it's called Friday Night Dinner. The only thing I want to warn you about is like once you've watched the first couple episodes, they're kind of it's the same formula. The two boys that no longer live at home, they come back and visit their family every Friday night, and there's always some mishap.
So, okay, it's also British humor.
Yes.
Sounds,
So
uh,
so if you can catch it, go for it. It's kind of funny. And speaking of other things that are surprisingly Jewish to people, I don't know if oh yeah, when Fred and I were pre-recording our show on last Wednesday, a friend of mine I used to work with texted me about the Real Sports with Bryant Gumbel on HBO. I guess she was
okay.
watching it with her father. She texted me while you and I were pre-recording to say, "Oh, I didn't realize Amari Stoudemire is an Orthodox Jew."
Yeah.
And
Oh.
it's what?
Before we go on this angle, because I have a lot to say on this one here. Quick note about
Mm-hmm.
the donuts. The one I had was the lotus cookie flavored cream in the middle was really good. The other one is like a maple with cinnamon flavored cream, and I didn't eat that one because cinnamon would dry my mouth out too much, and therefore cause a problem while speaking. So I'll save them for later. But they're both really, really good. Yeah, continue. Mari Sotomayor.
Yeah, so Amari Stoudemire, I remembered when I was working with her, I told all these people at my job it was really, really cool because they were talking about his conversion studies into Judaism. And now this was a feature on Bryant Gumbel's show. So that was another thing I watched last night was I actually watched the segment. And so for people who don't know, Amari Stoudemire is a basketball player. He played for I think the Nets. I'm not good at basketball. I think he played for the Nets. He played for the Knicks, some other teams. So sometime around 2016, I think he had an injury and he couldn't play for the NBA anymore.
Yeah.
So he ended up playing in the Israeli leagues.
Cool.
And so while he was in Israel, he got really, really close to the people. Now, this is where the story gets kind of intriguing for us. This was a story. His conversion story was that so ever since he was a little boy, he knew that according to his mom, they had Jewish roots.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, he didn't refer to it as Jewish roots. He referred to it as Black Hebrew Israelite, which we have talked about in the past on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And so he just wanted to kind of learn more about that connection. But in learning more about that connection, he actually ended up converting to what we call rabbinic Judaism. That's the Judaism we all follow. And what's most commonly associated as Judaism. And while he was on his path, and it took him many years to study for his conversion. And yes, he did comment on the Bryant Gumbel show about how awkward it was for the 6'10" black guy with dreads sitting in yeshiva, and how intimidated he was by the rabbis with the long beards at first, because they look at you, and there's no joking in their eyes. It's all serious. They wanted to make sure he was just as serious, because the thing is with converting to Judaism, if you want to do it, it's great. It's just not that easy. It's one of those things where it's like you have to be serious about this.
Yeah. And if you're not
And that's
serious,
where
we don't want you involved, and we will basically say we will. I mean, the Jewish people in general will basically look at you and say, get out of here.
well, there is a middle ground that we've talked about before on the show. We tell people a lot, you can be a perfectly lovely person without becoming Jewish. You can follow the Noahide laws that we had talked about
Yeah,
before.
the Noahide
You
community is really rather large and really prominent and growing, growing, and growing. They accept the 7 laws of the children of Noah, which is the original covenant, dare I say, and and they go from there.
right.
And
So So there's like a way to be a part of the Jewish people, but not fully part of the Jewish people would be, I would say, through the Noachides.
Mm-hmm.
So other things that Amare had done was he created a wine
Really?
in Israel a couple years back. He started a winery. I was looking online to see if I could get a bottle for myself. It's about $200 a bottle.
Wow.
I don't know how good the wine is, but just to let you know,
At
if anyone is
$200, it better be damn good. That's all
really
I can
good
say.
wine, exactly.
Better be.
But he talked about his journey. He talked about how different, like how serious he was taking his decision to convert. He officially converted, actually around, I'd say spring 2020, when I was looking at the in the context of like he was completing his conversion ceremony and everyone was wearing masks and they were all outside. So I'm going to guess it was just at the start of COVID.
Okay.
So it's relatively recent. And then the other big story, I had two more things I wanted to talk about. One is kind of funny, and the other one's a little more serious. I was going to go with the kind of funny first.
Okay.
So the big hullabaloo on Facebook about 3 days ago
Okay.
in the Jewish community was not about Amari Stoudemire's story on HBO. It was actually about vodka.
Oh yeah, the vodka story. But
People were so up
wait,
in
wait,
arms.
wait.
So
Before we go to that one, I wanted to do one other topic first, if I may.
hmm
Because you're talking about famous people, Orthodox. I want to kind of stick on to that one theme before we go to the vodka story. Would you mind?
Okay, no
Um,
problem.
cool video. Elisheva turned me on to it, and I actually like this. Uh, there's a song everyone knows, the Adam Sandler Hanukkah song. I hate it. I think it's condescending. I think it's written by. If I did not know better, I would think it was written by somebody who's not Jewish, because it hits every stereotype you can think of in the Adam Sandler song. These two guys
All
got
four
together.
parts. All four
Everything.
parts. Yeah. There's like four parts to the Hanukkah song. But yeah.
Regardless, the point though is that it's all hitting every stereotype you can think of, and I find it annoying, and I don't like it at all. So these two guys went ahead, who are pretty well known, and they did their own version of that. Well, they sampled it, and they went to M. Sandler, that is, and they created their own Hanukkah song. And in the process, now we have Nissim Black, who was a very, very famous black rapper. He was a rapper who ended up going through all different religious changes, trying Christianity, Islam, and then he said, you know something? I'm trying Orthodox Judaism, and he became a Hasidic. And he's very, very strong about it. And he says, hey, this is it. He said him and Kosher Dills, who's some type of rapper, I'm not sure what he does, they did a great video on, I think it came out the second night of Hanukkah, because he had two candles in it, and really, really great song, phenomenal, love it, really, really great job, and I just had to give kudos to that one, and it's worth watching. Anyhow,
Yeah, I got you into Nissim Black a while ago because I got you into his collaboration with God Elbaz on Hasham Malach.
I think I saw it before. I think I saw it before, if I'm correct. But either way, regardless,
Yeah.
the point though is that great stuff. But their Hanukkah song, version 2, I think it was called. Great job. And
Well, that does actually segue back into my vodka story because one of Nissim's songs that he released in the past year, he started his own whiskey,
yeah,
and it's called Hava, like Hava Nagila,
have a whiskey.
and I believe it's only on sale in Israel.
Uh-huh.
But that's okay. So anyway, so back to the hullabaloo. So it's this. So in the Jewish community, we are known to do a l'chaim, to life, whenever there is a joyous event.
Sure.
It could be on some schnapps, it could be on some vodka, it could be on some whiskey.
Sure.
And so one of the things that kosher Jews rely on is we rely on this list that is circulated by certifying agencies of which hard liquors we can just walk into the store and buy. Or we can go to a bar and purchase without being concerned about whether non-kosher ingredients were mixed in. I just want to make sure our listeners have a good backstory on this.
And the reason why they say this is because sometimes you may have, for example, a wine barrel being used, and the problem with, for example, French wines is that, and I don't know how true this is, but I'm told that with a lot of French wines, they will use pig's blood as a clarifying agent. And of course, that's not kosher. So if that was
the problematic thing a lot of the times with the hard liquors that are made from with wine with inside the casks is also attached to. We have very strict rules within kashrut, within the kosher rules regarding drinking wine from certain sources, and so we know that those sources are not the ones that are used at the whiskey distilleries.
Yeah, we'll only give you a couple examples of where things can go wrong when it comes to kosher wine and spirits in general. So yeah.
So that's like just factors. A very general and okay. So what general got topic, everyone What got everyone upset was Grey Goose.
Mm-hmm. Vodka company.
Grey Goose is a vodka company. I have seen it at almost every simcha, joyous occasion over the years. It's a very, very common one that is used.
Very popular.
And so there was a whole hullabaloo. People were freaking out on Facebook. I got different posts about different kosher markets were actually removing their entire stock of Grey Goose over this.
Why?
Well, because there's a concern that not all the runs are kosher, only certain ones are kosher. There's a concern that when it comes to the vodka, so vodka, if it's grain-based or potato-based, we're fine. Just to make sure people understand that. I can't use it for Passover, but I can certainly use it the rest of the year. Or, corn-based vodka. There's one I like called Tito's. That one is not a problem. However, except for Passover. However, So the claim is with the Grey Goose is that they are not consistently doing a grain-based vodka. They are doing grape-based vodka. So it's wine-based.
Uh-huh.
So one certifying agency wrote this very long statement that was very complicated about whether or not it was kosher. And then the other sponsor of a kosher liquor list, I'll just name it, the Star K, still has it on the approved list as of
last
now.
Week. As of today?
As
okay.
of now.
Okay.
As of right now, I'm looking. It is still listed. There's been no statements by the Star K. Just the CRC issued a statement.
Well, I'll tell you what. I have a connection from... Okay, I used to run a group called Boycott, which I still run it, but I haven't posted any articles up in a while. And I would go and look at consumer boycotts, get the story from both sides, and post the information, because too often boycotts are extremely one-sided and nobody knows what the truth is. So I would get to the bottom of it. So I dealt with Grey Goose years ago with the famous French boycott. People may not remember that one, but
Freedom Fries.
Exactly. And Grey Goose was being boycotted, part of that, and I called Grey Goose. I said, "Hey, let's get to the bottom of this. Can we please get, and I talked to them, and they said, no, we're an American-based company based in New Jersey. We make it in France, but we are a U.S. company, 100%. So, okay, thank you. I posted that, and in full disclosure, they sent me a big, giant bottle as a thank you. Wonderful people. I did it, and I forget the name, I have to look it up, but wonderful people. I'm going to call them again. I will call them and say, hey, guys, you may be, if you remember me or not, I appreciate that. Thank you. I want to help return the favor. I'm part of the Jewish community. This is a concern. My cell phone is ringing. Hang on 1 second, please. I'll be upstairs in a few minutes. Okay, bye. Okay, that took care of that one. Okay, so...
That's the beauty of the podcast world.
Yes.
Okay.
Everyone's always calling me. And yeah, the point, though, is that I'm going to give them a call. Because I still remember them. Hopefully they still remember me. I don't know, but we'll find out. And I'll ask them, do you have any grape products, or have you had grape products in your wine, in your vodka? And let's see what they say. Now, of course, when it comes to kosher, the laws are a little stricter than just asking. you have to check everything. Blah 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 blah. At least we double check. But
That's why we
I
send. That's why we send rabbis to the different facilities. We might have them on
exactly.
site because
But
someone could give a tour one day, but then not be honest the other days.
so, but I'm just curious because I just want to ask them, hey, like what's going on here? Give me the 411. I just give me the basic answer, and I'll tell them what I know. And I want because I'm curious. I really am. I just want to know, is this something that's I should be worried about or not? So the worst thing can happen is they just may not take my call. Okay, fine. They don't take my call. Gee, end the story. But maybe they will. So we won't put this on air, but we will use this on After Hours to get more information. How's that sound?
Yes,
Okay.
because the world needs to know if we can still buy Grey Goose vodka.
Hey, it looks like we're going at 25 minutes already. It looks like we're doing a roll here, but still got more topics to cover.
Okay, so actually, your boycott thing reminded me of another thing I was going to talk about.
Boycott watch? Okay.
Yes, well, I'm going to call it the boycott thing.
Okay, fine. And Bo, just in full disclosure,
I'm downplaying it.
Well, in full disclosure, I never boycotted anything or this thing. I basically just got the news out. And by the way, in full disclosure, also, I broke a lot of news. It put me on Fox and even Al Jazeera. I was on a lot of news stations covering stuff I did. I definitely made a name for myself with that, but I stopped when my father got sick, and I just couldn't do anymore. It was just too much for me, and I never got back into it. Anyhow, go ahead.
Okay, so one of the things we often talk about is the boycott, divestments, and sanctions movement.
Oh, my favorite topic in the world.
Yes, and that's why I said, speaking of your boycott thing.
Thing.
So this is actually, and we've also talked about it as not just being it becomes problematic in the Jewish community because there's a lot of Jewish people who are also human rights activists.
Yes.
And so they get very, because it's actually part of our obligation to care about everyone in the world to an extent. So the problem is that Palestinians are being put up there as victims of the Israeli oppressors, and so then it's going into the questions about Israel's right to exist because supposedly we are oppressing. And the problem I'm having with this whole thing is, of course, as we've talked about before, being anti-Israel, being anti-Zionist is just our good old frenemy, anti-Semitism in new clothing.
Yes.
It's
and yeah, and also by the way, that brings me to my topic I was going to bring up: the fact that anti-Semitism is now up by over 98% according to a recent study, and people are using this as an excuse by saying, "Oh, we're just anti-Israel." No, we know what you really, really mean. You're attacking Israel, attacking Jews, and you're disguising it as being anti-Israel, and that's an excuse which is ringing everywhere. Oh,
and where this comes out very, very prevalently is in situations where I, as an American Jew, yes, I am a Zionist, yes, I love Israel, and that's not my point. I, as an American Jew, find myself sometimes having to answer for and explain policies that happen in Israel, as if I have a direct line to the Prime Minister.
And also, by the way, let me add one more thing about that. A lot of times these claims that come out contain half-truths. Absolute half-truths. So you really never know what the real story is. Let me give you a great example. I'll give a past one, you give a current one. The past one was, a number of years ago, there was this flotilla going toward Gaza, and it was showing how poor Palestinians, this and that. So I put together a website, it's still there. I never updated in years, but it still exists. FlotillaCruiseLine.com. And on the website, I showed how beautiful Gaza is. That they have beautiful restaurants, chefs, hotels, shopping malls, you name it, it's there. And sure enough, it put a lot of those questions to shame because, wait a minute, you mean Gaza is not this hellhole. Oh, by the way, to Jews, the word hell is not a bad word, just so you know. So Gaza is not this hellhole that we say it is. That's right, it's not.
We'll get
And
into a discussion on Jewish views on the afterlife on another show.
we should do that. We really should. But nonetheless, the point though is that you see a lot of pure propaganda going up about how poor Gaza is. Yeah, you want some nice pictures? Go to flotillacruiseline.com. You will see shopping malls. You'll see some beautiful stuff. The soccer stadium, soccer fields. Oh, of course, the beach with the cabanas and beautifully laid out umbrellas and a giant swimming pool for Olympic style racing. It's trust me, okay. Gaza is not this torn up little strip of nothing. It's built up beautifully.
Well, there's beautiful and not so beautiful in every place you go. I mean, how many times have you and I have seen these stories about how scary it is to be in Cleveland, Ohio?
Yeah, but still.
And there's beautiful places in Cleveland. There's not so great places in Cleveland. That's everywhere.
Look at the website. You may be surprised. Hey, go ahead.
Okay,
you can tell your more modern story.
Okay, so this is a more recent story. I'm just gonna full disclosure. I have several different Twitter accounts that are aligned to various interests because I don't like my streams crossing.
Mm-hmm.
And so on this particular person that I follow on one of my Twitter accounts, they retweeted yesterday this person about how Palestinians' digital voices are being snuffed out by a mix of Israeli government policy and quiet acquiescence of large tech companies. They shared an article from foreignpolicy.com. The title was How to End Israel's Digital Occupation. Silicon Valley executives should recognize Palestinian statehood in line with UN norms.
I need my tinfoil hat. Because
I thought you had one by now.
What was that?
I thought you had one by now.
Yeah, I don't know. I have to go make one. Anyway, the point though is that this is the kind of stuff that's filled with innuendo and half-truths and blatant lies. Israel is not blocking Palestinian whatever. This is garbage. Total garbage.
They're also not talking about...
Go ahead.
I mean, they're not even talking about how on another vein of it, depending on how you use check-ins on Google Maps or Facebook, it actually will not come up as Israel.
Yeah.
If you're going to Judea and Samaria, that's not how it comes up.
That's a whole other topic that we have to go into as a whole separate.
But
show.
I mean, but the point is like the way I look at it is this, and this was what Fred and I talked about before the After Hours show. We're getting real meta here. Is the way I look at it is this. During the Civil War, when there were states that decided it didn't want to be part of the United States anymore, and it wanted to be part of its own country. Now, the reasons we don't need to get into, but just the fact of the matter is they decided they no longer wanted to be under the authority of the United States, correct?
Yeah.
So, by extension, that meant rights and privileges that are accorded to U.S. citizens, should they still receive access to.
Yeah.
But I mean that's where that gets into this problem here is if you've made this declaration, I'm going to be part of a separate country. I don't want to be part under your authority anymore. But then you also want rights and privileges and benefits. I mean, I've never heard of anything where Israeli networks are blocking the access for people who live in the Palestinian Authority, and I'm just looking at this as
you know why you know why you never heard that before? Because it doesn't exist.
Right, and so I will tell you where it's problematic. So the person who tweeted this out, or retweeted it rather, has a YouTube channel where they are very strong advocates of human rights. And they've had different people on the show talking about different aspects of human rights. They have also claimed to be a Jewish ally to Jewish people. So now that they're sharing this, I'm kind of questioning their allyship. That's why.
All I can tell you is that every day there's another new complaint about the Jews. We're this, we're this, we're that. It doesn't stop. The complaints about us, I mean, they get so imaginative. It's incredible. And, it's incredible. It just doesn't end. And some of these things just don't dignify our response. But we almost have to because of the fact that these things are so nasty that they just can't go and be left alone. And all I'm going to say about this is that this is just bizarre stupid. Leave me alone with bizarre stupid. I don't need this level of stupidity called upon me every single day. And in fact, I'll tell you something. If every one of these complaints were true, we would probably be classified as a supervillain in a movie. We'd be definitely some kind of supervillain that's taking over the world. If all these things are true.
Well, that was another one I was going to tell you. I saw an article where actually it's our fault there even is a war on Christmas.
Oh, of course, it's a Jew's fault.
Well, that was actually we can thank Mr. Henry Ford.
Another one of the most lovely people in the world.
Yes, we can thank him for claiming that it's the Jews' fault because we don't celebrate Christmas and we were declaring a war on Christmas, and that's why Fred and I keep saying we don't have a problem with Christmas. We just don't celebrate Christmas.
Here's the thing, okay? Talk about Henry Ford. Henry Ford was one of the most violent anti-Semites in the U.S. He sided with Hitler completely. He published a very, very nasty anti-Semitic screed years ago, and when in their defense, and in thank you, I should say, deference to him, years later, the Ford Foundation decided to make up for it by taking the movie Schindler's List, broadcasting it with no commercials whatsoever because everybody needed to know the story and how evil Hitler was. So it took the Ford Foundation years and years and years to actually correct, or at least slightly make up for the Henry Ford nastiness, to say the least. And we appreciate that, but still does not make up for who Henry Ford was as a violent anti-Semite.
Right.
Enough said about that.
I mean, but basically, like I said, I mean, it's almost like Fred and I would have to do shows almost every day to just talk about and highlight all these things. But we also don't want to make our show 100% about anti-Semitism.
We want to make people would hate us.
We want to be fun. We want to talk about, there's
Yeah.
like a mixture of different things. I mean, I was filled with a lot of pride when I found out about my former coworker messaging me and saying, "Oh, I didn't know this NBA player is one of you." It was really cool.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's good stories. There's fun stories. We would greatly prefer to just talk about the fun stuff. We would greatly prefer to talk about, like, we want to use this platform to actually help educate people about Judaism.
Yeah.
We want to be able to explain things, and perhaps a lot of it is not actual hate, but ignorance.
Yes.
Like my students this week, when I made the latkes for them, at first they were a little apprehensive because it looked unfamiliar. It wasn't being rude. It was just ignorance. It was they had never heard of a latke. They didn't know if they were going to like it or not.
And tell once again the story how your student was apprehensive and he tried a latke.
Yeah.
And
well, because it was basically like, the name sounds kind of unusual. What's a latke? And then I was like, well, let's see here. And I described the ingredients. I said it's a potato pancake. We eat it during Chanukah. We fry it in oil. And it's like, oh, so at first when kids heard potato pancake, they were thinking of like buttermilk pancakes or something with potatoes on top. And I said, no. It is grated potatoes and onions and eggs and seasonings. And we make this little patty and we fry this in oil, and it is very, 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 very good. So I said, if you like all those things, you should try this, because I do think you're going to like it. It just has an unfamiliar name to you. And so when I was cooking them, at first they were like, they knew the food smelled good. They were just a little unsure. And then a couple
Yeah,
people started trying it, and then all of a sudden, like, I was getting, like, the rest of the day, I was getting kids coming up, like, oh, do you have more? Do you have more?
oh, by the way, I should tell people you said about the smell. When the latkes are frying, the whole house gets the smell of it, and everybody perks up and wants to grab a latke right away when it's
Mm-hmm.
hot out of. No one wants to wait. In fact, what happens a lot of times are, okay, I had a Hanukkah party last night with my niece, at her house, kids, whatever, and my mother complained, "Well, where are the latkes? They're all gone." Mom, they didn't make latkes. What? Because it's very common where the latkes are eaten up right away. Very common because they're that good. And
And the person who's on latke cooking duty, that's where you are the night, for the whole night. You're just there.
yeah, and you might
You're
end up not even be able to eat any because by the time you eat, you get them out of the fry pan, they're gone.
and you
Yeah, they're that
spend
good.
most of the night grating them and cooking them.
Yeah.
But it is a very good smell, and so that's why, like, all after a while, I think the kids are like, oh, it's just food. We like food.
So and they had them and they liked them, so that's cool. But
Yeah,
yeah, so
but that's what we want to do on this show. I mean, we can't make latkes for our audience, but provide these nuggets of Judaism, questions you may have been afraid to ask or didn't know who to ask.
and we want to have fun with it. We really do. We try to have fun with this and just kind of go this. So our new After Hours show is meant so we can go into topics we can't do on the show. We try to avoid anything political, and we can't mention dollar amounts. We can't mention company names on the air. I guess we find that we're allowed to mention the words Facebook and YouTube, but that's about it.
We just can't tell people they have to go check this out.
Yeah, we can't say watch our YouTube feed or whatever. We can say there is a YouTube channel, or we have a YouTube channel called, but we can't say go visit our channel for the if you missed the show. We can say you may be able to whatever, kind of be really really
Semantics.
yeah. It's just FCC rules. So anyhow,
So, but I mean, please provide comments if there's any topics that you want Fred and I to cover
yeah,
on the
email
After
us.
Hours show. You can email us, and we'll make sure to have those email addresses because my name is not spelled as easily as it's said.
Mine is so Fred at JewishCommunityRadio.org. We definitely appreciate comments. We definitely read them. Uh, we've had a few nasty comments here and there. So be it. I don't really care. It doesn't. People. Oh my
Actually,
god.
it proves somebody's listening.
Yeah, no, they're listening. We know people are listening. We have a very, very. I'm not gonna say the numbers I know of on the station, but I know we have very, very good numbers. And either way, all right, Elisheva, I think let's close it out here. But
Okay, that's fine.
I just want to say though one thing that is that once again, you want to attack us, we will build. We will not put up with the anti-Semitism. We just don't. The answer in Israel to terrorism is genocide. Live radio, well, podcast. The point though is that in Israel, when somebody does something, some terrorist act, our response is we build. They build more in the settlements. I hate using that term. I really do. Long story, but we'll talk about it also today. Our answer is always we will build, and we do. We do build, and we build, and we're going to build, and we're going to build more. We're just not going to put up with this hate garbage that comes to us. We just don't and won't. So real simple. Anyhow, with that, Elisheva, why don't we just call it a day at about 44 minutes?
Okay, and we'll be back. We'll be back on Friday on WJCU 88.7. Actually, 88.7 WJCU University Heights.
Ooh, the legal
Fridays
ID.
at 12:30.
You got 12:30 to 1. All right, Elisheva, we will see everyone then. Everyone, Chag Sameach. The holiday ends tonight, and this is the last
tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah, tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay, have a good one, everybody. Enjoy.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Bye.